great pleasure to be with you this evening and to introduce Manel Arroyo, who needs no introduction, I'm sure, to all of you from Dorna, but also Mehul Kapadia, who is the CMO of Tata Communications. And the purpose of this evening really is just to talk a little bit about the innovations that are going on with Dorna and some of their partners in the space of fan engagement, fan connectivity, bringing this sport alive really through technology, through cameras and innovations, and where it's all going, where the journey is going in the future. And also to show a little bit the relationship between these two companies. Obviously Tata as a group is one of the biggest companies in the world. Tata Communications are very much involved in Formula One for a number of years, and I'm sure Mehul will talk about that. So Manel, why don't you kick us off? There's a microphone just there. And tell us a little bit about how, I mean, things have moved on so much in MotoGP. I'm thinking of onboard cameras, which is such a critical part of conveying the excitement of this amazing sport, the rider versus rider on track. Share a little bit the journey so far, and also your vision of what's going next.
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. The vision is not to know where we are going, no? But how this starts? This starts, I like to say always, because we are around a great sport, and we have a fantastic, let me say, sport, pure racing. Fantastic riders, and our only duty is to show what they are doing on the bikes. And today the technology offers us this possibility with onboard cameras and with many other things, with the data that also they are producing. And it's for this that in the end we are enjoying all together what is going on the track in this huge sport, great sport, because today the cameras on the track, but the cameras on bikes are showing us how the riders, how the athletes are fighting, are working with their machines to make this fantastic show.
I was talking this morning to Randy Mamela. I don't know how many of you know this, I didn't realize it, but right here in Assen, 1985 was the first time that an onboard camera was used on a bike in a MotoGP.
In motorsports. The first onboard camera was
of all motorsport?
In all motorsports.
Oh, really?
After that, after this GP in Assen with Randy, Bernie discovers the onboard cameras and immediately was trying to bring to Formula One. But first was MotoGP.
And it was about 1.3 kilos, the unit weighed. Yeah. It was on the left side of Randy's handlebars looking out, and it was raining like cats and dogs. And he won the race. But he also...
They put the... Who knows the history better is Sergi, that has been catching on all this matter. And you know, all of you, Sergi. But the matter is they put the camera on Randy because they were expecting Randy being the second group of the race. But in the moment that started to rain, Randy was in front and was not one bike in front of the onboard camera. Okay, that means if Randy was the choice is because everybody was expecting him being in the second group, okay, being more bikes around him, and because he escaped in front of the race, was no bikes around this.
But he also tells a great story, which is he was the first person to do an onboard camera selfie, because he came off and slid past the camera, and he's like, oh, like this in the camera. Anyway, so it's come a long way since then, is the point. And Mehul, obviously, you guys play an important part in distributing this content. So tell us a little bit about the background of what you do.
Yes, thank you. And first up, thank you to Manel and the brilliant team that we work with here. It's been a fascinating journey with MotoGP over the last couple of years. And we've been in motorsport now since 2012. So we started our journey in motorsports with Formula One. Then we started working with Mercedes team in 2013. We like to say that Lewis Hamilton and us, we joined them together, right? Small little thing. But it's fascinating to the point, right? As to how technology in all aspects is evolving so much. So while so much is happening on the camera side, for example, what you said, it's important then, does it reach to the fans where they are? Because today's fans are changing, right? If you look at it, 4 kinds of fans you would look at: people who come to the racetrack, and even at the racetrack, it is such a large racetrack. How do they consume the entire sport in its entirety, right? And that's where things like OTT, or that's where all the data, the richness of the data which is there, which Dorna produces, how can that reach them? Then the second aspect is fans at home watching it on television, and how do you make that more interactive for them? Then there are people on the move. And that's where what Donna has done is path-breaking on the OTT front, working with the zone and taking it to fans literally wherever they are is another important aspect. And then finally, the fourth aspect of fans, where if you're not just a hardcore fan who can sit for 60 minutes, 90 minutes and watch it, but you're somebody who wants to consume a lot of micro content, right? And especially the younger Instagram generation now, they want to consume micro content through the day, not necessarily just on the weekend. And that's where, again, a lot of the work that we do, providing the connectivity, allowing for remote operations to happen, can enable that.
And also speed is important in all of this, isn't it? Because you don't want latency in any of this, right?
Oh, absolutely. So actually, that is why a lot of work has gone into as we build our global network. So to give you some context, Tata Communications, we run the world's largest submarine cable network. So when we think of data and it moving around the world, there's fiber optic cable between all continents that we've laid. And a lot of work has gone into engineering it to be low latency. Low latency means that from the time an action happens here to the time it can reach somewhere and come back, how quickly can that happen, right? And it's all in milliseconds. So you battle an island and the data has to go from, say, Qatar to Barcelona and back, right? So that's the speed at which it has to happen. And a lot of that configuration has gone in because only then you can actually do stuff in real time.
So Manel, obviously I'm particularly fascinated by the onboard camera thing and the fact that I'm told you have, Sergio was telling me earlier, you have 120 cameras in the MotoGP class, right?
In total, we are around 120 cameras.
120 onboard cameras. And obviously constantly improving this technology allows Sergi and the team to be able to cut between cameras, and there's more and more coming in that way to make the battles more exciting. Why is that possible now that wasn't possible, say, a few years ago?
Let me say that this for sure, what you are mentioning, the fact that we can play in a better way with the connectivity. But one thing that has been bringing in the last 2 years with Tata is the fact, for example, that we are taking from one of our bikes 4 signals that we send to Barcelona, into our studios, and we convert this in a 360 live camera. The only one today that in motorsports is live for the fans, for the users, that you can enjoy in our app and in the app of some of our broadcasters, okay? And this is thanks to all the development, all the tests that we have been doing with Tata to make this possible, okay? And this is the future, because as we have been talking many times with all of you, one of the advantages of the motorsports, or one of the difference between motorsports and other sports, is the fact that we are completely interactive between the sport, between the athlete, between the riders, and between the fans. Different that happens in football matches or in tennis or in basketball, where you are in front of all the action. In motorsports, what happens is that is many places, many angles, many views, many feeds that just the multi-screens, just the multi-feeds can supply to the fan to have the control and the decision about what they want to watch. And this is what makes a huge motorsports. Is what I understand that motorsports altogether, we need to give a strong message to the fans, to the users, to the platforms, that today in this big battle of content, that we are battling not just against the sports, we're battling with TV series, with films, with other industries around the entertainment. It's important that everybody understands that motorsports today is one of the places where really we have an interaction with the fan, with the user.
And of course, the spirit of innovation runs through all of this. It's real cutting-edge stuff. But you say that you're interactive, so you're obviously listening to your fans as much as you're transmitting to your fans. What are your fans telling you about what they want, the kind of content they want on their devices, presumably where they want it, when they want it?
I think that everybody agrees that today we are producing the content that the fans want to watch, not the content that we want that the fans watch. That is the huge difference. Today, the social networks are giving us the info, the knowledge that what likes and what doesn't like to the fans. And it's for this that to be ready to have partners like Tata in our side, working together, working with their experience, not just in the sports entertainment, also in the connectivity, in a big industries like you are doing in banking, in financing, and they are I don't know if everybody is aware, but Tata is the first company in cables in the world, in the planet, in the globe. it's important to have this experience, to have this knowledge. You mentioned the low latency is clearly one of the elements that we need to work very soon, just to give the fast experience, the best experience to the fans.
And presumably in terms of the health and the prosperity, if you want, of the whole ecosystem here, this digital transformation opens up opportunities for, not just for Dorna, but for broadcasters, for other partners. Maybe that's a question for both of you.
And as Manel said rightly, it is about what fans want rather than what we want to give them, right? And doing that, I would like to touch on two aspects. One is the whole thing about content and how do they view it, etc., which we've touched upon. But I think it's equally important in terms of how does it become operationally easy for companies like Dorna then to be able to do it, right? And that's where it's a pleasure to work with Manel and team and the challenge they throw at us as well. Because doing 360, that is what fans want, right? And it's a brilliant thing, and especially in a motorbike scenario, the ability to do that. But it's supremely challenging to be able to do it in real time, stitch up those 4 feeds, ensure they're getting delivered to various things. So I think the more we are able to also make it operationally healthier and easier for the teams to operate on, that's also the combination to look at. Because new technologies will come up in various kinds of things, right? 360 is one aspect. AR, VR, augmented reality and virtual reality haven't picked up to the same extent yet, but there will be a time when those will come into play as well. Esports is the next barrier where that will come in, and that will also come into play. And it's great to see actually motorsports taking the lead, MotoGP really taking the lead to prepare for that, right? Because you can't plan for every scenario, but if you have the foundation in place, you can then actually serve the needs as they come up.
Anything to add, Manel?
Absolutely, and another thing, let me say that to introduce is the fact that today the connectivity that we have, the connectivity that brings to us Tata, gives the possibility to work in remote production, for example, okay? We have a huge team working in Barcelona in our headquarters, in our studios, okay? In Sundays is around 80 people, more or less, that are working in all the digital development, all digital setup, but also they are acting in the international program feed, in the live feed, okay? And also this gives us a capacity, an extra capacity to analyze, to enhance the facts that we can produce in the international program feed. Let me that Sergi explain better than me these kind of things that today remote production are bringing to us, because Sergi is clearly the one is designing all of this together with the guys of Tata.
Thank you, Manel. Well, following the speech that started Manel, this is the first time we ever had a broadcaster working in Barcelona, directing from Barcelona. This is the case of DAZN. Last year we had these people in the circuit, and thank you to the first 2 years we were working with Tata and having being confident with your work, because from your knowledge, when we went from the satellite to the fiber, we all were frightened, but we are brave, always thinking the risk is where you can achieve new things. So after 2 years of little problems that Giovanni is dealing with Tata in all the circuits, we decided in a meeting in Australia together that, okay, that's all, we will do it from Barcelona. And that means that the 20 people that used to work traveling and suffering the ways that it means been traveling, they are in Barcelona. And the first experience was, guys, how it was, and they say, it's perfect. It's ultra low delay, the latency, so they are, obviously there is things that they have to adapt, but we have to say that the experience has been extremely positive. This is our 8th Grand Prix, and there's 20 people happier than are not traveling and spend the time with the family. Thank you to all the signals that we're working with Tata.
It's very interesting.
And more than this, also in the international program feed, for example, all the control cameras on the ref are done in Barcelona. I mean, the cameras that are in the pit lane, on the grid, or
so hang on, just explain that. There's a man with a little lever in Barcelona operating a camera thousands of miles away that's sitting on the pit wall just like that.
And another one that is managing the switch between the onboard cameras. All the management of the onboard cameras on the track are done in Barcelona. Independently, we are in Assen or we are in Australia. And the graphics, clearly.
So that's done there and then fed back to you here.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, good moment to throw it open to the floor. To anybody got any questions that they would like to ask? Yes.
A question for you, Manel. I mean, I watch a lot of the onboard feeds because it's really useful. You learn so much from watching a race from onboard. I think it's useful for everyone, but it must also be useful for teams and for riders as well. Do you get any resistance from teams because you can learn things about riding style, about bikes, the way bikes behave?
No, David, is opposite. The teams are completely in this paddock. One of the things that we are enjoying is the consensus in the way that we work in many things. But one is the work done with the teams. Okay. More than this, they are sometimes asking material to analyze things properly. Yeah. That the cameras are giving better than the telemetry. And in our visit to the compound, in our IPF, we show some samples where the bike has been improved thanks to the camera technology. Okay, that means that the work with the teams in this way is completely in hand. We work clearly bearing in mind what is to bring more extra weight to the bikes and extra elements, but clearly from many years we are working in a fantastic consensus with them.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, just a question maybe for Manel and Sergi as well. There was talk about a more immersive experience for fans. Where do you think that could go for MotoGP? I mean, is there a possibility for virtual reality, or it's more than just onboard cameras? Could you maybe put the fans inside some pit boxes? I mean, where do you think it could go in the future? And will you ask even more of Tata to help you with that?
We are working on this matter. We are analyzing all of this. Another thing that happens today is that all these extra feeds, what we need to analyze is the use of the fans. Okay, that means then we are going to invest. We are going to develop these new possibilities, this new performance when we can see that the fans are asking for it. Okay, because there's many things where we can invest and we can develop together with Tata. But clearly, it's in our pipeline to develop these kind of things. Absolutely.
And one of the things is that the big data, it's something, I mean, we are surrounded by massive amount of data from the bike, from the rider, from the GPS, so all of this is something we are working a lot to be able to reproduce some virtuality at the end. But first of all, we have to standardize and stabilize, because on TV at this moment, video and audio, it's a key thing that you can transport from one layer to the other, but not the data yet. But it's important that we are working on that, on managing this data to produce new ways to show a replay or approach or a part of the speed of the race.
Just we have a problem in MotoGP, to be honest, a huge problem. Sometimes to put a replay is a massive decision, because we have fantastic battles on the track. That means we cannot disturb sometimes what is going on, what is happening, because with more graphics or sometimes a replay or sometimes to switch one on board, we can produce a problem, because in the end the user wants to watch the battles on track, and I am saying a problem. What we have is a massive advantage about the show that the riders are doing on track, and clearly what we need is to show this in a proper way and don't disturb the fans to watch what is going on the track.
Yep, Oriel.
I would like to know the main benefits from the TV point of view of this remote production. I mean, the remote production, which are the main benefits, apart from the budget and these kind of things, from the technical side, which are the main benefits?
I pass the micro to Sergi, but one of the things, apart the budgets, is the capabilities to analyze. People working in Barcelona, people working in headquarters, work in a better way, in a more comfortable way, with more tools, that we are not traveling with all the tools, clearly, to work in the proper way and to enhance finally what is the performance.
The thing is that this weekend, for the first time, we started doing something in Barcelona, is that we introduced recording systems to record our multi-viewers. So the multi-viewers that show what we are making the choices live from 20 cameras in the track and 120 cameras on board. somebody in Barcelona, a journalist that is not surrounded by the pressure of the circuit, is rewinding and he will be able to analyze because, as Manel was saying, there are so much things happening on a race in MotoGP in 45 minutes that you need extra people, but more of this, you need people in a quiet place that can go back and forwards, make a decision, and then come back to us. It doesn't matter where you are. By the time the intercom, that came 5 years ago or 6, by the time when we talk together, there's no delay, that this is now in audio is perfect, you can communicate to somebody, and if he's in another place with more tools, with more desks, with more space, because this is limited space, and limited personnel, the advantage is huge, and because we are always trying to improve, we need more help with people that doesn't fit in our track. Apart from this, you cannot imagine how happy the people when the job is finished, they go back home, see the children. This is very important. As important as being effective technically, because if not, they leave the work and then you lose somebody who was learning for years. This is very important.
Yeah, no, that's the human aspect is such a big thing about remote operations. It's massive, right? Yeah. And if I can add a couple of more use cases that actually come up, and we've been working with a lot on cricket, as you can expect, coming from India, right? It helps IPL, which is the Indian Premier League, if I may share that example, one of the biggest cricket leagues in the world. And by working with remote operations, they're able to regionalize a lot, right? So if you think of it today, if you're producing standard world feeds, and that is what the demand is today, but as more and more customization will happen, regionalization can happen, you can actually produce multiple feeds without the dependency of just even what is the connectivity at the racetrack, right? As Sergi was saying, moving from satellite to fiber itself unlocked a lot. Now, if we can do all of this remotely, you could start producing so many feeds with so many different commentary versions on it. Graphic changes could happen. Ad insertion could be different depending on the geography, etc. And all of those could open up potentially, right? Depends on the sport, which sport can adopt what, but all of this could open up.
Isn't it also possible that you could have a bi-directional relationship with fans? So you could have fans sending messages back to you through fiber, etc., to the racetrack, and you actually start wrapping around personalized content. So Rossi fans could have some customization in the feeds. Marquez fans could have customization in the feeds.
That's for sure that technology brings these possibilities. The matter is, as I said, to see if the fans want exactly this, to have a personalized feed, or they are, let me say, is enough with the feeds that we are today producing. But clearly, the technology brings us these possibilities, absolutely.
Any other questions? Yeah.
We are talking about communications. At least I remember last year in Silverstone, connecting the riders with the astronauts in the space. So this was, I mean, your achievement in the race was a Tata thing.
Yeah, it was
And how is this possible?
So it was a fantastic tie-up again with Dorna, and so we leverage satellite technology at that time, so fiber at the racetrack, but then satellite, because of course when they are in space, that's what is needed to be done. But again, I think, and sometimes, it's a very simple thing. Low latency means a simple thing. We think things are happening in real time. But especially when you're talking to somebody out there in space, it starts mattering that much more.
And he was doing 25,000 miles an hour or something, wasn't he?
And Astro Feustel, the astronaut that was in the space, is a huge fan of MotoGP. Has been in Breno normally 2 years ago, and he was following the races through MotoGP.com in a regular way.
On the International Space Station?
Yeah, in the International Space.
Cool.
Can I ask a bit of a boring question? It's about just numbers. Because you talk about you're switching from satellites to basically TCP/IP, internet transport. How much more bandwidth do you have? How much data are you transporting backwards and forwards to the racetrack?
Yeah, so huge volumes now. I mean, we put in multiple circuits for 1 gigabit and then another half a gig to support it, and then satellite backup as well. So there are multiple levels at which, so there is a redundancy built in as well, and there is capacity that is there as well.
Yep.
Just a question for Sergi. Can you tell me, are you quite amazed at how the technology is advanced? Because I'm sure it wasn't too long ago that you had thousands of tapes, you know, to store all the images of the past years of MotoGP, but now it must be a completely different working environment.
Well, something, sorry, something we are doing already here, but something we have here that not other companies have making production is the media set management. We have it on site with 700 terabytes. One of the goals is that those pictures that we consider gold pictures, or we call it best images, which is around, I don't want to make a mistake, but around some less than a terabyte. All of this is going to be sent through Tata to Barcelona to make sure that during the weekend, the people that now is staying in Barcelona editing and preparing videos because they don't travel anymore, they will have this top content. The rest of the content is archived on site because it travels from country to country and from Grand Prix to Grand Prix. And at the end of the weekend, we will take this around 12 terabytes to Barcelona to host it on the hard disk. One of the goals with Tata also is the cloud idea, cloud computing, which is, there are more companies interested on that, but because it's another concept that we still are figuring out if we could, at the same time that we produce, we are starting collocating this, technically talking, into places where everybody has access. But this is something it's important to work also from now because we have so many cameras and more feeds and also bigger feeds like 4K or HDR if it's coming. You need more space, more agility, and it's a growing problem, to say it one way. No?
One of the tools that we have in this sport, in this compound, that is not in others, is in Olympic Games, is in Football World Championships, but not in other sports, is the what mentioned Sergi, the MAM, the media asset management, where all the broadcasters that are on site can access to all footage from a desktop. What is our plan, our dream is to have this on the cloud, also for the broadcasters that are not on site. They can access to all the footage that we produce for the international program feed, plus with the ANG crews that immediately we put at disposal to everybody.
Anybody else got another question? The other thing we haven't mentioned is actually how you do this in terms of the physical thing, which is these pods, basically, that are in the TV compound, right? That are your, everything goes through there that's pinging this stuff back via fibre to Barcelona. And if anybody wants to go and have a look at them, they're pretty cool, actually. I was having a look at them yesterday. They're just at the end of the paddock in the TV compound. So I think there's a group of people, if you want to go now, you can get a quick look round there just to fill out the picture of how this actually works. Lots of bright flashing lights and a million screens and some very, very clever people. I would encourage you to do that because it's actually pretty cool. But if there's no further questions, any final words?
We can visit today, or possibly it's better tomorrow when it's working, because now I can imagine or it's practically closed, or they are in, still is open, yeah? Up the pod for them, but the rest of the TV compound, normally in this moment. But anyway, you are free through us, through Giovanni, through Sergio, through me, to visit the TV compound, to visit the Tata pod, okay? And to visit all our facility here in this paddock or in the other compounds in all the GPs, okay? You are welcome.
Yeah, you go. Another question?
Sorry.
It's okay. That's what we're here for.
Again, this is like a technical one, really. For maybe Sergio, you're the best to answer. But the graphics element, because this is something
about
real
Tata.
time, you know, has to be
Someone about Tata.
instantaneous.
Tata.
Is that taking a lot of
Yeah?
like gigabyte, megabyte, whatever? I mean, how's the process, the system for this? Because it seems very impressive that you can be so reactive with that as well. It's not just a moving image; it's the information.
But you mean the live graphics on the TV? Well, we are using four different channels because only the vertical classification standing is heavier and heavier and heavier because it's sustaining video data. I have to say that the graphics is the lightest thing, more than the bandwidth that uses the video and even the audio. The thing is that we achieve to send the people in Barcelona because, again, we are talking about this low latency allows us to launch a graphic, which is something that you give an order, it has some time. And in the beginning it was a bit tough. Now the guys in Barcelona, they can launch these graphics, but all the servers and all the technical stuff is here. Okay, all they do is have a remote panel or remote keyboard, following orders and using the information that is already in Barcelona or there, because we translate it. But I have to say that all the graphics that we are moving, taking the data from the bike or creating virtual reality, augmented reality with these graphics of the lean angles and all of this, is managed in a very fast way and agile, because we have a lot of experience. Also, I have to say that we have licensed software to BSRT, which is the company, and the first company that has acquired this software attaching graphics is Formula One, which is very good, no? They are going to use the same thing as in a short time.
Okay, if that, oh, go on then.
Last mention, because that raises a question. It seems MotoGP has been really incredibly innovative, and I think much of it is because of Sergi. Sergi is a genius, and he seems to. You're producing such incredibly innovative content, and I know that there's interest from other sports. Is this becoming a revenue stream for you, selling the technology you develop inside of MotoGP for other sports, or?
Let me say is something, but it's not the target, it's not the aim. Clearly, when we developed this and BSRT was watching the possibilities, immediately they proposed us to put this on the market. But clearly, we developed this for us, for our sport. Then, because we know that other sports can copy, if is ready and is done in Barcelona, done by our team, is something that we are proud, and clearly some small revenues.
Can you explain the 360 of NASCAR is interested in?
For example, some years ago we were working, and still we have some contacts with NASCAR that request to us to provide them the onboard cameras. Okay, that means clearly the technology that we are using here is something that the fact that we work in a special environment because with no many space on the bikes give us this advantage to make this evolution.
And overcoming vibrations as well, I guess, because you must have big problems with vibrations on the bikes.
Exactly. The vibration that we have on the bikes is the machinery with more vibrations. We have been testing this with the guys from Fuji, Canon, certain lens, okay? Because the situations that happens on a bike doesn't happen in other machinery in the globe, okay?
Okay, so there you go, 35 years on from that great big lump that sat on Randy Mamela's bike and gave you your first onboard cameras. You can see that the technology is unbelievable now, and I think if we sit here in another 2 or 3 years' time, I think we'll be talking about things that even now we couldn't really imagine. So compliments to all of you, to Sergi for all the work you've done, to Mehul and Manel, and thank you everyone for coming. And
let me say just one thing, because it's what we like to say about always about Dorna. Is clearly, as David mentioned, Sergi is clearly one of the genius, but in Dorna we are proud of something, is the team. The team, how the team was, is we are more than 200 people working in the media operation. Sergi is one of the leaders, together with Giovanni and more people. But what happens in Dorna is that we work with passion. We love what we are doing. And sometimes I make a joke that at the end of the month, they are paying us. They didn't discover that we are enjoying so much doing what we are doing. That is the secret of Dorna.
well, congratulations for that, and thank you for sharing some insights tonight. Thank you. Thank you.